Assalamu alaikum. Our final year project is AI-based plant cells detection. Supervisor is Dr. Gulsher Lund. Co-supervisor is Dr. Junaid Ahmed Bhatti. I myself, Pankaj Raj, along with my groupmate Raj Kumar. This is the content of this presentation. First of all, we'll talk about motivation to do this project. Then we'll discuss project statement, objectives of the project. We'll tell about the literature review that we have done for this project. Then we'll move towards workflow, conventional machine learning methods, different classifiers, transfer learning, conclusion, and the future work. So the motivation to do this project is to solve problem of annual disease detection, which is done manually by field expert, which is time taking and costly. In fields, there are field experts who go and check if crop is healthy or unhealthy. So we want to solve this problem to increase growth of crops by tackling different anomalies in rice plant caused by diseases, to detect rice seed disease using machine learning algorithms, to reduce cost of pesticide used for crops using this technique through drones, and to increase the agriculture productivity in a sustainable way. These are the motivation that we want to do this project for. The problem statement is that the rice blast is an extreme fungal disease that threatens global food security. It decreases the yield of rice crop due to extreme diseases. Pesticides are being wasted by spraying them on the whole field rather than spraying them only on the affected area. So we want to solve these problems through our FIP. The objectives of this presentation are to develop a data set of plants with rice seeds, to apply machine learning algorithms to classify plants with healthy and unhealthy rice seeds, to conduct a comparative analysis of performance of machine learning algorithms, to reduce cost through reduced pesticide spraying. These are the objectives of our project, and the word is given now. This is the literature review. First of all, we reviewed a research paper named Plant Disease Detection Using Image Processing. In this, general disease detection, but it was not for any specific plant. Disease detection with help of multiple feature extraction techniques were done, like different feature extraction techniques using contrast, entropy, etc. Multiple segmentation techniques have been used for the interested region of healthy or unhealthy plant as well, such as K-means clustering, Otsu, texture-based, etc. Different classification processes used for this required accuracy. Survey has been done in India in this research paper. Then we reviewed feasibility study on plant chili disease detection using image processing techniques. Various microorganisms and bacterial diseases and pests attacks on chili plant have been detected. Symptoms have been identified through leaves, stems, or fruit inspection. Chili disease has been detected through leaf feature inspection. So in this paper, the leaf of chili is inspected through its features, and then the disease has been detected. The plant chili disease detection through leaf and image data processing technique is very useful and inexpensive system, especially for assisting farmers. More efficient method for early disease detection of chili plant. This is used for the early disease detection. Then moving forward, we have review on application of drones for crop health monitoring and spraying pesticides and fertilizers. This survey has also been taken in India and mentioned that 50% of population is dependent on agriculture field. Automatic control of fertilizer spraying and crop monitoring can be done with quadcopter. So already research has been conducted by team people who propose the use of drone at a low cost and efficient technique, spraying pesticide and fertilizer in agriculture fields on different crops using unmanned aerial vehicle and different quadcopter, and it aids to develop the precision agriculture technique. It reduces the amount of pesticide and fertilizer used in agriculture field. Also, you can increase the crop yield. So these are the benefits that are shown in this paper. Then we lastly reviewed wheat leaf disease detection using machine learning method. This paper helped us in the detection of the classifier that we are using in our own project. So this uses classification technique. There are applied, supervised, unsupervised machine learnings, and then SVM has been also preferred as effective technique. So this is the flowchart of our project. First of all, we have done image acquisition, then we have done pre-processing, segmentation, feature extraction, Then we have moved towards classification of healthy and unhealthy. Then we have to predict the disease of plant. Image acquisition is the process in which we obtained our images. In this step, we capture image of plant through Vivo Android camera, Vivo mobile phone. Images were taken from September 5th to 7th, 2020, and at that time, age of the crop was 50 to 60 days, and the total age of rice crop is 90 days. Images were taken in nearby areas of Kashmir, Sindh, in 4 different areas and 10 different fields to have diverse results, to have diverse samples. We totally captured 1300 images, out of which 1000 images are used as a data set, 500 healthy and 500 unhealthy. And these images were labeled by field expert from Syngenta company, Mr. Siraj Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum, myself Rajkumar, and I will continue the further this presentation. The next step in our workflow chart is pre-processing. In pre-processing, we have to apply some techniques for our rough data set which we have collected from the field. For example, we have to apply the image cropping techniques and then image enhancement, because the image cropping and image enhancement techniques will help us to clarify the images in a very accurate manner. Also, we will apply the image resizing technique, because it will help us to collect the whole data set in the same size. The next step is segmentation. And segmentation is the process, as we know, the segmentation is the process of separating data into distinct groups. Because if we are taking the rough data set from the field, then there will be a lot of extra data in the foreground or background. So we will take only the interested region of that image. Segmentation is the process of partitioning an image into multiple segments, in which we will divide our actual image in the pixels, and number of pixels and objects. Segmentation is typically look at object boundaries like lines, curves, etc. So segmentation has lots of techniques like Otsu segmentation, thresholding segmentation, k-means clustering, segmentation based on region, segmentation based on edges, and segmentation based on clustering like k-means clustering. So in our project, we have used k-means clustering. What k-means clustering does, in k-means clustering, we have to define the different clusters for the segmentation. In our project, we have defined 3 different clusters which are red, brown and green. Red color and the brown color shows the infected area of our plant. We have also used the Otsu and thresholding techniques for the segmentation, but the results for those techniques were not at much desired, so we have moved toward the k-means clustering. K-means clustering is used for the classification of object based on a set of features into k number of clusters. Like we have used 3 number of clusters. The classification of object is done by minimizing the sum of squares. Here in k-means clustering, we just calculate the means it is the back mathematical modeling of k-means clustering, that it calculates the distance of pixel by pixel. So after that, this is the mathematical modeling of k-means clustering, that how it practically performs at the back end. Here we have, you can see that number of clusters and also number of cases, that how many clusters we are taking for how many number of the images. So this is the, and here you can see that green, brown and blue color, these are the clusters which we have taken. These are the results of our data set. Like you can see in original image, this is the original image of our data set which we have taken, and that image has been further divided into 3 segments, 3 clusters, cluster 3, cluster 2, cluster 1. Now from first image, we can see that cluster 3 is our interested cluster. So it is because in that cluster it is the image of a healthy plant, and it is cluster 3 is showing only greenish color plant, which is our healthy plant. Similarly, in this image here, original image is of an unhealthy plant. So unhealthy plant shows the brownish spots on the seed. So in this image, you can see the again cluster 3 is showing the only brownish color, only the infected part, and the remaining part it has been removed. So the main purpose of segmentation is to remove the extra or the extra part from the background. The benefits of segmentation, it helps to locate the object boundaries in image, it helps to extract the desired part of the image, it helps to improve the accuracy. After that, we have next step is feature extraction. Now as we know that for classification purpose, we can give our original image as an input, and also we can give the features, number of features as an input. So for both results we are using number of features as well as the original image. So here we are calculating the features, we are extracting the features from our original image, and then next step we will give these features to our classifiers. So feature extraction is the process of transforming input data into set of features. It is essential step to feature interested region. Why we are taking features? Because in our image there are lots of features, so we will take the interested part of that feature, interested part of image, and then we will only give that extracted features to our classifier. So there are lots of techniques for the feature extraction, like texture based feature extraction, color based feature extraction, shape based feature extraction, but we have used texture based feature extraction because in our papers which we have reviewed in 5 papers, mostly they have used the texture based feature extraction. So texture based feature extraction features are contrast, correlation, energy, entropy and homogeneity. So these are the simply definitions for the average feature. Like contrast, it is the measure of the intensity contrast between a pixel and its a neighbor over the entire image. Similarly, correlation, it is the measure of how correlated a pixel is to neighbor pixels. Energy measures the uniformity, means the more homogeneous the image is. Entropy is the measure of the randomness of intensity image or measure of the disorder of within image. Homogeneity is the measure of similarity of the pixels. Now here these are the results of our data set for only 100 healthy and unhealthy images. You can see that features for the healthy and unhealthy have similar values. It is the for contrast, and similarly for correlation we have again the different histogram plots for the 100 healthy and unhealthy plots. These are the for energy, and these are for entropy, and these are for homogeneity feature. So after going through all these histograms, we have calculated that the feature values are same for the healthy and unhealthy images, which we can see in this comparison plot. We can see that only contrast have little bit difference and entropy has a minor changes, but remaining correlation, energy and homogeneity have same features. Now what is the reason behind that why these features are same for the healthy and unhealthy images? The main reason is a data set is taken from field and there is lots of extra part in background, and another reason is the foreground and the background are data is similar. So that is the reason why we are getting the same values for the features. After the feature extraction we have the next step, classification. Now whatever features we have extracted, we have to give that features to our classifiers. So classification, it is a categorized the data into classes. It helps in the identification of the disease. There are different classifiers which can be used for the classification purposes, such as SVM classifier, decision tree classifier, random forest classifier, LDA classifier, PCA classifier, and all we have used all these classifiers for the comparison purposes, because we have to see that which classifier suit best for our accuracy. Now this is the classification splitting data, how we have split data, as we have captured total 1300 images, but from these 1300 images we have removed some images, and the final our data set was of 100,000 images. From those 1000 images I have settled 80% of the data set for the training purposes and 20% of the data set for the testing purposes, which is given in code below. So this is the little bit description about the classifiers, how SVM classifier works, and the different. This is the SVM classifier. SVM stands for support vector machines. It is the supervised learning. Supervised learning means in this we have output which is already labeled. SVM can be used as SVC, like support vector classification and regression. SVM can be used in both classification as well as in regression. In classification we used it as SVC, and in regression case we will use it as SVR. It is used for the smallest data set, because here we have to select the support vector. The support vectors are those in figure. You can see that this hyperplane is a decision plane. It will decide either our feature value accuracy, decide the feature accuracy values, so depending on the support vectors. Next is LDA classifier. LDA stands for the linear discriminant analysis. It is again a supervised learning algorithm, because the data output was already will be already labeled. Can be make decision to classify between two different groups. It helps in dimensionality reduction. Dimensionality reduction means if we have lots of features, so it is confusion for the classifiers that which features are important for us, so it will reduce the dimensionality. Decision tree classifier, it is again a supervised learning algorithm. It works based on the decisions. It has node and leaf node. So a tree in which each branch represents a choice between a number of alternatives, and each leaf node represents a decision. The decision will be taken on the leaf node. One of the most widely used supervised learning, easy to use, understand, and can hold both categorical and numerical data. In this, we can give our input as a categorical data. Categorical means in which we can give the string or the names, and we can give also numerical data like numbered form. Then we have random forest classifier. It is again a supervised learning algorithm mainly used for the classification purposes. Again, logistic regression classifier, machine learning algorithm used for the classification. So these are the little bit intro about these classifiers. It is Naive Bayes. It is a classifier which uses the Naive Bayes theorem, which is given here. And Bayes theorem works on the probability. So these are the our classification results. Whatever accuracies we have got from the different classifiers, like you can see in SVM classifier, logistic classifier, and we have performed these classifiers techniques for the different sizes of the image. Like we have performed firstly on the 128 size of image, and then 256 by 256, and then 512 by 512, and then has 1024 by 1024. So this is the comparison plot for the accuracies before PCA. Now why before PCA? I will discuss it later on. These are the results for the cropped images, and these are the results for the rough images, because we have the original data set that is called rough images, which we have taken from the field, and then we have another data set which is called crop data set, that we have applied the cropping technique and we have got that data set. These are the classification report. In classification report, you can see we have precision, recall, and F1 score. As we know that the recall is the number of classes that has been predicted correctly, and precision is the number of classes that has been predicted but not sure are these are correct or not correct. So here labeling 0 shows the unhealthy plant and 1 shows the healthy plant. So in here you can see the maximum accuracy we are getting is 60 to 70%. So the classification report shows us that these traditional classifiers like SVM, logistic, Naive Bayes, decision tree are not that much accurate to give a higher accuracy. So this is the conclusion whatever I have told you. Now the accuracies we get are not that much accurate, so we have tried to move towards the PCA classifier. Now what PCA classifier do? PCA classifier, why we are using PCA classifier as we have noted that our training accuracies are higher than our testing accuracies. So when training accuracy is higher than testing, it means our model is performing overfitting. So to remove that overfitting, we have to use PCA classifier. PCA is used to remove the overfitting. It works on the dimensionality. What is dimensionality? Like we are giving lots of features to lots of features, but our model is getting confused. So what PCA will do, it will perform a dimensionality, and it will reduce our high dimensional features towards the low dimensionality, and it will easy for the classifier to decide whether to take the decisions. So these are the plots from after the PCA classifier. So we can see that before classifier, here we have before classifier, then maximum frequency is maximum accuracy is 70%, but here we can see that maximum accuracy is near about 75 to 80%. So after PCA classifier, we have some good results and accuracies. So it is again proved that PCA is good after the traditional classifier. So this is the again accuracy plot for the rough images, and that is the accuracy plot for cropped images. So now conclusion for traditional classifier, as whatever traditional classifier we have used that has not that much efficient accuracy, so we are going to move towards the deep learning methods, because whatever classifiers we have applied that have not as much accuracy. So why deep learning?
The conventional classifier were not good enough because of the area of interest in our data set is very small. The unhealthy area is very small. That is our interest area. The features of healthy and unhealthy images don't have much difference, so that's why the conventional model do not give good results. There is a lot of background noise which interrupts in learning and better results. Deep learning works on each pixel, hence making it easier for the model to learn and give better accuracy. Why are we using transfer learning in deep learning exactly? Transfer learning is a reuse of a pre-trained model on a new problem. We can use already trained models with more than 90% accuracy, and those algorithms have been trained on millions of images having thousands of classes. If we take a pre-trained model, change the top layers and train it on our own dataset. It is used when dataset is small, just like in our case. So the transfer learning model that we are using is VGG16. VGG16 is a convolutional neural network model proposed by K. Simonen and A. Zisserman from University of Oxford in the paper Very Deep Convolutional Networks for Large-Scale Image Recognition. The model achieves 92.7% top 5 test accuracy in ImageNet filter, which is a dataset of over 14 million images belonging to 1000 classes. It has 16 layers: convolutional layers, max pooling layers, fully connected dense ReLU layers, and output layer softmax or sigmoid. Then, defining VGG16, we take top layer neurons from 16, then we go towards 32, and we check the parameters, which parameters are good. As we can see in the 16 neurons model, the model accuracy validation accuracy has went up to 64%, and it is increasing. So we increase the neurons so that the parameters are increased for learning, and then 32 neurons result validation accuracy has went up to 66% somewhere. Yeah, so increasing neurons is increasing accuracy, but when we see the result of 64 neurons, we can see the results after 12 epochs are decreasing. So we can say that somehow 64 is enough for one layer of VGG16, so that it can give us about 63-4% accuracy, validation accuracy. 128 neurons. Just by the way, for now we are setting the parameters, so we are testing random neurons for our model, but then we understand the pattern, how it is following, if it is learning, not learning, if it's going into overfitting, underfitting, then we will do further. So in the 128 neuron model, the output validation accuracy has went up to about 70%, but it came down to 66-67%. So yes, this model can also be used, but there is some kind of problem that we need to do. It is overfitting. So these are the VGG results that we used with 256 and 128 neurons with a dropout layer. What dropout does? Dropout helps us with the overfitting. It helps us minimize overfitting, and it is a regularization method. We can see that the validation accuracy has went up to 71%, and the loss is also decreasing, and we have also got test accuracy of 69.31%. that is the best accuracy we've got until now. So let's change the parameters and try again. So we put our parameters again and see with 100 epochs. That was with 50 epochs, this is with 100 epochs. So the accuracy is still the same. So then we again change our parameters with 128 neurons, 64 neurons, and with 0.3 dropout, 30% dropout. What dropout does in our system, that after the layers are trained, it suddenly, without any sequence, drops some weights to regularize the weights, and so that the model does not optimize, it generalizes. If training accuracy is increasing and validation accuracy is not increasing, that is our overfitting. So this dropout layer helps us in the overfitting of the model. So as we can see, the validation accuracy has went up to about 73% here, and the testing accuracy is 71.29%. So having such complex data, this much accuracy is more than enough. As we saw in the convolutional machine learning methods, classifiers, 6 classifiers that we used, naive Bayes, decision tree, etc., they did not give us more than 62% accuracy. So yeah, this is a good step, this is a good result. So these are the results that we have taken out until now, and this is the best result, 71.29%. The future work that we have to do in this model is that we have to implement this algorithm on drones, pesticide spraying drones that will visit the field and tell us how much of the field is unhealthy and how much is healthy. So using that data, that percentage of the unhealthy plants available in the field, present in the field, we will only spray pesticide on those plants, and we will save cost pesticides, and we will also increase the efficiency yield of the crop. So that will help us achieve our objectives, that were to do the comparative study. We did that. We on 7 classifiers, 6 simple classifier, traditional, and 1 deep learning classifier, which is 16. And then we also developed a machine learning method which can accurately detect healthy and unhealthy pictures up to 71.29% in such complex data. And then we also have future work that will be upon drones, which we will be doing to reduce the cost and increase the yield of crops. These are the references that we are using. Thank you so much.